Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Profit Minds podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch, creator of the Profit Minds Growth System, a unique blend of profit growth, productivity acceleration, and building robust business process for scale. In every episode, I interview entrepreneurs and small business owners from around the world with a unique story to tell. You can find the show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. Hello, everyone. Today, my guest is David Alexander, Global Connector of Trustegrity, and one of my favorite networking groups. Today, we'll be talking about the importance of networking in growing your business. Welcome, David.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Good morning, and to your audience, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever they may be tuning in from. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm excited to be a profit mind. Maybe I'll learn how to generate massive profits just being on your show and being exposed to the awesome Stephen Kirch.
Well, who knows? I'll tell you, the best part of doing this from my perspective is getting to know and getting to understand the story and the why of everybody that's on the show, right? So David, tell us your story. How did you get to be where you are in running this amazing networking group called Trustegrity?
Yeah, I'm happy to share my story. Actually, I have been in really the space of building business groups, connecting people together in a powerful way. Really my entire career. Interestingly, though, when I started my career, I started in a very different trajectory than I'm in today. My major in college was natural resources management with a degree in forestry, of all things. So I should be
So you were a tree hugger?
That's right. Yes. And actually, interestingly, that's part of the reason why I wanted to go into that field. I'm very sustainably focused. I want to make a positive impact in the world through what I do. And I thought that was going to be, going into natural resources management. However, after college, I started applying for some roles in that field. And I remember getting job offers, $16,000, $19,000. And I thought to myself, well, that's going to be hard to build, a really good lifestyle with that small amount of money. And it would take years for that to really increase substantially. So as many of us do, and I'm sure many of the listeners on your podcast, as many of us do, I landed in sales of all places. Now, how much do you think they taught us in college with a natural resources management degree about sales?
I would guess you probably learned about as much about sales as I did with my degree in physics.
Yes.
which is zero.
They taught us to run from people in the science or run from salespeople, right? In the science field. So not be one. So interestingly, I landed into sales and was taught when I was in sales, I was taught just simple methods of increasing sales. And I remember one day I was aggressively thrown out of an office building. Like when I say aggressive, like somebody grabbed my arm, security, and escorted me out of the building. And I sat outside of my car thinking to myself, there has to be a better way to build a business than this. And so when I was in my car, interestingly, I wonder if I can find this page in my book really quick. When I was sitting in my car, I started thinking about how do I build a network of people that I can't find it quickly in my book, but I can explain it. How do I build a network of people that I can surround myself with that will help me grow my business? I mean, that's literally the thought I had in my car. When I was thinking that through, I thought to myself, well, there's different rivers, using my natural resources management degree, right? There's different rivers of connections. And literally I have a book called Networking Like a Pro that's a bestseller. And one of the graphics in the book talks about, the different streams of networking. And so I started thinking, well, there's a stream of networking that's like social contacts, right? There's a stream of networking that's business related, like clients and customers, people like that. There's a stream of contacts that are kind of like association type contacts, people in similar businesses, mentors, people like that. And so I started thinking about all these streams, and then I thought to myself, well, out of all these different people in my network, and I was very young then, so my network was not big. How could I refine that down to a small group of people that would really go all in and help me build my business? And so, interestingly, Stephen, that was the foundation. That little inflection point was the foundation of my entire career. And it was the foundation of learning how to use group dynamics and networks, to build a business. And I've built over 20 companies successfully, since that time, and truly have had an awesome life doing it.
It's really interesting. You as a young person, right? A young, not terribly successful salesman, as you describe, right? Getting thrown out of a building. I would think that's probably,
fair enough.
That's probably some negative feedback on the way you were approaching this.
Yes.
I'm wondering, what was it in your life? What was it in your in the way you were raised, or who you associated with, that threw you from I'm going to be a better salesman to I have to approach this in a completely different way and use networking, which I'm guessing, based on our mutual ages, that was not that was not the first thing that people typically thought of to build a business.
That was new age back then.
I know that's my point. And how did so I'm trying to poke a little bit at how you got to, again, at a very young age, right? This is I'm assuming mid-20s, right? That
27.
Yeah. So what was it about the way in which you were either taught or raised, or a lesson that you learned that said, I shouldn't just continue to do what everybody else does, but I should do something different?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. And I really think it comes to a great degree from my parents. My father was a principal in a high school, and he actually wound up being running the community, like the community outreach for an entire school system. He was the PR person, basically, for an entire school system. My mother was a teacher, and seeing how they interacted with various networks and various people and the relationships they had in place, and how they could navigate politics and navigate governmental agencies and just get things done through people. I really think that was kind of the basis of my idea. Plus, to be completely transparent, I hated cold calling. I'm an introvert, Stephen. If you have a physics degree, you probably are too. And so I'm kind of an introvert. And so the whole idea of just approaching somebody cold, absolutely scared me to death. So it's really one of those things where I either had to figure out a different way to grow my business, or I just had to get out of that line of work altogether. So it was multiple little reasons. By the way, I found that graphic in the book. I'm going to put it up on the screen. So those are the rivers. Those are the networking streams, rivers, and you can see the little small circle down there that says inner circle. To a great degree, that's what I do today. I put business people inside of a little inner circle of people, who are willing to go all in to help each other out. And actually, interestingly, here's another little component of my story. So all this that we talked about so far happened in the late 90s. Well, also in the late 90s, I decided that it was time to look at building my own business, because once I got, the rest of the story was sales. I went from average at that company to the number one salesperson in about 8 or 9 months. And it happened through developing these key relationships within my network that led to the success that I had. So that's a really important part of the story, because that gave me the confidence at that point to go open my own business. which has been a game changing experience, for me, both ups and downs. And the reason, why I decided to become an entrepreneur then, and the reason why I'm an entrepreneur today is not for profit, by the way. It's for time. It's 100% for time. I want to be able to do what I want to do, when I want to do it. I want to travel anywhere I want to go. And I want to do that with the ability to help people along the way. So there's that, I guess, altruistic motive of whatever I do has to be good. That kind of even gets back to my original thoughts on sustainability. But also I want to be able to have the time to do whatever I want to do with whoever I want to do. For example, and this, I think this is a big reason to be an entrepreneur. I took 2-week-long fishing trips a year with my father, who's my father's no longer with us. But I took 2-week-long fishing trips with him a year for 20 years. How many people do you know that do that, with their father? And I spend equal amounts of time with other people in my family as well. So looking at entrepreneurship, you got to figure out what is that real strong driver, because entrepreneurship is a grind. Obviously, you have to make a profit, right? Or you're going to go out of business. But there has to be something deeper, your why, your passion, your purpose that drives an entrepreneur to get through the muck, because there is a lot of muck in entrepreneurship.
Well, that's certainly true. I think everybody that I have worked with, they have a driving why, and they do it because of that why. And for some people, it's about helping others. It's about using their gifts. It's about the freedom that you talked about, which I think every entrepreneur has this dream of, I'm going to be successful enough in my business, whatever that looks like, that I can either sell it and not do it anymore, or I can, well, it's a variety of things, but eventually it almost always comes back to, I want to be able to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them.
100%. 100%.
And so connecting with that why, and one of the reasons that I have a job as a business coach is because most entrepreneurs are really passionate and really good at what they do, but they don't really know how to run a business.
You're right.
Again, nobody teaches that, right? In business, even if you go and get a business degree, you learn how to run a big business, not a little one. Mm-hmm. And it's not the same. And just because you're successful as a little business doesn't mean you know how to become successful as a slightly larger business.
Correct.
Right? Because what got you here isn't going to get you there.
Correct.
So,
and I'll
go ahead.
No, I just also wanted to share too, what you do, for companies is critically important. Looking at, before we came on to this podcast, we're talking about my mission, of my company, of Trustegrity. Our mission simply is inspire people, create profit, which you'll smile about, ignite passion, and make a social impact in the communities that we serve. All of those elements of our mission are critically important. And I think sometimes in entrepreneurship, we actually can sort of forget about the profit piece of the puzzle because we're so dug into everything else. And then we all of a sudden wind up without a company because we didn't focus on that. And that's one of the things I love about what you do. I mean, you come along beside people, you help them with systems, you help them with processes, so that they can truly have that profit, which then allows them to dig into that why, to have the time managed, to effective time management, and have everything else that they want to do. Even looking at our mission, without profit, really the rest of it kind of falls apart. I mean, you have to have a viable business, for all of this to work correctly. And that's why I love people like you, because that's what you do. And I'll share with you, I've had 3 phenomenal coaches over the course of my career. Each one of those coaches built, I don't know why it just put a thumbs down on my screen. We need to have Apple put a thumbs up. There we go.
Zoom does these gesture recognitions.
Yeah, I need to cut that. Well, I don't know how to cut that off on this system, but anyways, looking at that, at what you do is just really important, and you have to have somebody who's been there and done that to come along beside you to help out. I was texting back and forth with a young entrepreneur who's building a tech company in Charlotte this morning. He's in the muck. He's having financial challenges. He's having family challenges. He's like every challenge that there can be. I'm going to help him, but I'm also going to connect him to other people, who could at least come along beside him to help him out, because it's important to have a mentor. It's important to have somebody like you to come along beside us.
Yeah, I tell the story. We have in the Bay Area, we have a basketball team that some people have watched over the years, and we have one player in particular, Steph Curry, who is acknowledged to be the greatest shooter of all time. He has a shooting coach.
Doesn't surprise me.
Right?
I mean, most of the star athletes do have a coach.
Well, not only one, he's got 4 or 5, right? But seriously, he's got a mindset coach.
I believe
he's
it.
got a strength and conditioning coach. He's got a nutrition coach, and a shooting coach. And this is the best shooter in the entire world. How does he get better? Yeah. Well, he can't watch himself shoot. And we get blinders, and we're running our business and can't. We need an outside perspective. Even if the person isn't as good at doing what you do as you are, you need a coach. And that's one of the things that I love about Trustegrity is it's building a community of trusted advisors.
Yes.
We get together once a month to talk about not only, we do the introductions and we do the sort of standard things, but there's a couple of things that we do in Trustegrity that are different, that are really valuable. One of them is that every time we spend like 10 minutes talking to one other person, getting to know them better. Right? And the other one is we have a business roundtable discussion. Mm-hmm. Where some topic of interest is thrown out, and we get wisdom from the group, and sharing out of our experience, and that's incredibly valuable to have some network of people, some group of people that you can ask these business questions that you're not really sure, and it's a safe space.
Correct.
Yeah. So I love that about Trustegrity, and I love that piece of your why, that, building profit. Obviously, I care about profit. My clients care. Somebody said, if you have a business and you don't generate a profit, it's called a hobby.
That's true. A profitable hobby.
Well, yeah. Well, most hobbies are just a ways to spend money, right?
That's true.
So,
that's funny.
So building the profit, growing, but and then having an impact in the world.
Absolutely.
That's incredibly important. So and I know that over the years you've had a number of experiences in this networking space. Talk a little bit about some of the valuable lessons that you've learned about how to do networking and maybe how not to do networking.
That's a great question. Oftentimes, when I speak at different events and whatnot, I will ask people, all kinds of different questions. One of my favorite questions is, how many networking events do you attend over the course of a given month? Most people, it's like 5, 6, 7, 10. I don't know, like so many different things, and which amazes me, because then sometimes I'll get the question back. Well, gosh, David, you're like a leader in the industry. How many do you attend a month? I don't know, maybe 1. And people are like, wait, hang on, like that there's a cognitive disconnect. Like, you're a leader in the networking, business arena, and you go to one, maybe two events on a given month. Here's the thing. I only go to events where I could either make an impact at the event personally because I'm asked to help out in some way, or, it's an event that truly is encompassed by my target market. And I avoid a lot of events. And here's one of the reasons why, and I'm sure you've had this happen before. I'll go to an event and everybody, and actually, here's another funny question to ask. You can go to an event and ask, like there's 500 people in the room, and you can ask everybody, how many people are here to sell something? Raise your hand. How many hands do you think go up?
Everybody.
Everybody? Yeah. How many of you are here to buy something?
Nobody.
One poor soul in the middle of the room will raise his hand, and then he winds up getting on 250 email lists. So that's a disconnect, right? I mean, that's kind of a networking disconnect. So I am very, very strategic about the events that I go to. Time is very important, so I don't want to go somewhere where I'm going to waste my time. When I do go to an event, here's a key for all your listeners. When you go anywhere, take a wingman or two or three or four. Take people with you. Why? Because when you do that, you've just expanded your influence tremendously. If you go to an event, maybe you'll know a couple of people, right? If you go to an event with three or four other people, they're also going to know a couple of people different than the people that you know. And then you can all start introducing each other to these different networks of people. And then all of a sudden you turn an event into something pretty magical. So those are just a couple little strategies that I use when I look at different networking events, especially over the holidays. I mean, think about it. We're coming up on the holidays. There's a ton of stuff going on, right? From a business standpoint, personal standpoint, charitable standpoint. Be selective with what you do, but when you go somewhere, make an impact.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think the other thing that I think people may or may not do effectively, if you go to 10 networking events and meet 4 or 5 people, new people at each of those events, now you have 50 people to follow up with.
That's right.
How many of those
follows
people
up
are
with
you?
Anybody? So.
Well, yeah. So be strategic. Make
Correct.
sure you meet, 2 or 3 important, people that are in the organization or in the community of people that you want to be associated with, that will help you grow your business. And again, not with an idea to sell to them. Because again,
Correct.
Nobody goes to a networking event to buy stuff. You want to create relationships, but you want to create those relationships that are going to be useful. If you're going to spend your time, you need to get a return on that time. So I think that's really key, right?
Yeah, 100%. But I actually want to go back and kind of more specifically answer your question, kind of the characteristics of what it takes to be successful when you're building your business through a network. And here, really, if your listeners will do this in 2024, it'll make all the difference in the world. When you look at relationships, you have really 3 levels of relationships, and I'll just call that like, know, trust. Okay. If you look at the name of my company, Trustegrity, that's trust plus integrity. Those are 2 very important words. But let's talk about like, know, trust first. If you look at your network, think about how many people that you like or know. Looking at LinkedIn and Facebook, your business networks, your clients, probably a couple of hundred people, if you've been in business, for a while. But think about that last word for a second, trust. How many people do you trust, and how many people trust you? That is the cornerstone word in building a business by referral, is trust. The larger your trusted network is, the more successful you're going to be, because that trusted network of people, you can go to them and say, hey, you and I are an example. I could go to you. I'm sure I could go to you, Stephen, and say, hey, Stephen, I need a connection to, and you're going to do whatever you can do to make that connection for me, right? Because we've known each other for years. We're trusted people in our network. And so when you have a strong trusted network, you can go to them and make a request for help, whether that's financing, whether that's business, whether that's an opportunity. I mean, it's huge. Part of the reason why I do what I do today is around the year 2000, I built a group called the Platinum Club. It's a mastermind group. It started with 3 business people sitting around a table in Roanoke, Virginia. We were all in business. We were all new in business, didn't really know anything. And we just decided to go all in to help each other. We opened our books to each other. We talked about sales and marketing strategies with each other. We shared vendors, like one person had a great deal on this product, and so we all used that person. I mean, so we just created all this collaboration. Do you know that it's now 2024? Or, well, not quite yet, but it's almost 2024. Next month, I'm going to spend a week with that group. There's 19 of us now, a week with that group in Mexico. We get together once a year. We really go deep, masterminding, once a year, and then we meet quarterly on Zoom, in between that time. That group of people has made one of the largest impacts on my professional career of any group ever, probably all other groups combined. And I trust deeply every single person in that group. That's the power of a network. I can go to those people for resources. I can go to those people for investment. I can go to those people for opportunities. It's truly magical, and to a degree, that's what we're doing in Trustegrity, kind of on a little smaller scale, but still, that's really what we're doing in Trustegrity.
No, that's great. I think that really sums up how it is that you need to make those relationships really work.
100%.
So thank you, David. And that concludes our show. Thanks so much to David Alexander, the Global Connector of the networking group Trustegrity. I hope you learned something about networking and business growth. I know I did. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Profit Minds podcast. This is your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch. Please visit www.profitminds.net for other episodes or to contact me. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others. Thanks for listening. Have a grateful day.